So Dark Gathering has concluded with episode 25 of its first and hopefully not last season. And I think when you look at the structuring of this episode, the cryptic tease at the very end, next up Kyoto, I think we very much are getting a season 2. And I think it's good because there is content to currently adapt. Is there enough for 2 cores again? Not yet. So from my understanding, based on a comment last week, they adapted 34 to 36 chapters, give or take, for this 25 episode season. And there's still a good 20 some odd chapters left to adapt that are out because I think it's at like 56 or in that area currently of released chapters. What this means is that if they wanted to do a 12 or 13 episode season and greenlight it right away and start working on it, the material is currently out. If they waited about a year, give or take, there would be enough material out for another 2-core season. My gut says they probably will announce a season 2 sooner rather than later, but it will be a 1-core production. And I think it will be a very similar reason to that of something like Eminence and Shadow. Eminence and Shadow had a 2-core season, immediately announced the season 2, got a 1-core season, and obviously we see where they're going afterwards. But I like the idea because if we just greenlight another 2-core season right away, and you have to wait for it, you have a 2 to 4 year turnaround to get that season. A 1-core season that they can already start working on, we might only have to wait a year or two to see that, and it will allow the material to keep on getting produced so we don't risk the kind of idea of catching up and then basically blue ballsing the viewer. Because this is a story with a lot of potential. Dark Twisted Pokemon has an insane amount of potential to continue to be one of the best horror anime that has ever been made. So I think what we're about to see is within the next few months, maybe it will take a little longer than that. Sometimes anime studios like to announce that, hey, there is going to be a season 2, but they want it to be 6 months out before it officially comes out. Either way, I very much believe we will be seeing season 2. There is enough material for 1-core season, and I very much think that's what's going to happen. But that's just my opinion anyway. Now, full live reaction to the last episode for now of Dark Gathering is available on my Patreon. If you would like to see that, it's over there if you're interested. Now, this was a good final episode. I think that's a very fair way to say it. It was good. It didn't really do anything too crazy. It didn't really revolutionize Dark Gathering. It basically sets the stage for where the next arc wants to go. And I really didn't know what to expect walking into this episode. I thought we would see I thought we would deal with her. But instead, what they end up doing is they kind of set the stage for probably 12 episodes worth of content as we kind of group together our little Pokemon and we set off in order to do this insane maneuver. We have Yayoi talking to Eiko and Keitaro, and it's like 4 minutes of her going over this kind of like technical jargon about what they're going to do to the spirit. It all makes sense, it's interesting. But if you want me to repeat everything she just said, go rewatch the episode. There's a lot to it, but it basically comes down to, in terms of like putting each of them in this star formation, the whole area would be screwed. Like, so much shit would happen to just general civilians, but the way they're going about it is it's gonna all target their opponent, and hopefully it will be okay. But honestly, when they're talking about all this, and I'm thinking, okay, this all makes sense, and it seems like you got your asses covered, but one wrong step, and how many civilians are getting tortured by, like, these tortured ghosts? I don't know, but it's insane to think about. But it was kind of nice. It was interesting seeing, once again, the side of someone like Keitaro that I appreciate seeing, which is him terrified. He's not happy about this. He's like, God damn, this is some scary shit, but you know what, my friends need me, so I'm gonna be here. I can respect that. I can see the hustle there. I still think he should run and just let them deal with the bullshit themselves, but that's just me. The interesting thing was seeing these two psychos together alone in a room. I mean, it's one thing for them to install even more security cameras to spy on my boy. It's a whole other when you just see like wholesome at first, because you have Eiko who's like trying to show her like, hey, I made this kind of like repair so like it can keep on doing it. I was a little worried, and then she's like, no, that's actually great. The only reason I didn't do that is I wanted to train my spirits. But then you get to the room and I was like, what is she trying to open up? Because we know in that black box it's the psychopath yandere room. I'm like, well, that's not what she's opening up. No, she opens up, and I have to question, this is my biggest question, how in the hell does she have the money to 3D print that many? 3D printing, while definitely more accessible than it used to be even a few years back, the amount that she 3D printed is thousands of dollars worth of material. How in the hell did she afford that? What type of money did she come into? I know and like the craziest thing is that if she did have a savings, she recently just used the savings on their little graduate house. What the hell is going on here? But overall, I guess they got kind of their asses covered going forward, as my boy comes in saying, you know, I'm a little scared, but I got all the charms my grandma gave me. And I'm like, oh my God, bless his heart. He may not be as strong-willed and basically not fearful of the things as this little 8-year-old psychopath, but bless his heart, he comes as prepared as he absolutely can. The more I was watching this episode, the more I was like, okay, maybe they're gonna have like one quick battle, right? And then maybe they'll sequel bait us. But then like the more you watch, the more you see, the more you're like, oh shit, like there is literally no time to even really get deep into this next arc. So how bad of a cliffhanger are they going to leave us off on? I was expecting a brutal cliffhanger, and it kind of worked in a weird way. Like, yeah, it's not resolved by any means, but it's kind of nice seeing the gang together, feeling as prepared as they can, and having a decent idea of where that next arc is going to go. And for many, they're going to be jumping into that manga pretty much right after this episode's over for them. For me, I feel very strongly that we will get a season 2, but I mean, if we come a year from now and they still have not confirmed it, I mean, I probably will have to jump aboard. But it does feel like they're trying to build into this, because the structuring of this, like, everything about it, it didn't feel rushed, it didn't feel out of place. I think they did like 1.5 chapters, give or take, per episode in terms of adapting. So it just feels like they know what they're doing. My personal favorite part of the episode was actually Ai in her hospital scene. So she has one hell of a night terror. And I have to say, I do not envy this girl whatsoever. I mean, that initial shattering effect, the doll face of, I think she said it was her aunt, and just that, I mean, she is just getting tortured. Like, what this demon god is doing to her is just pure horror. I was convinced when she woke up, she was not going to have any memories, because the way that the dream was going was that basically she was thinking of Yayoi, or thinking of all these people, and then the faces would get covered up and she couldn't remember. She knew that she lost something, but she couldn't remember what it is she lost. When she walked up to that mirror after waking up, I was expecting her to say, "Who am I?" or this or that, but she did say their names. Very lucky for her, it could have been a lot worse. That's all I'm saying. I was getting some flashbacks to even like Yu-Gi-Oh, man. Like when Mai started losing her memories, I was like, don't tell me you're doing this. They're gonna go to that hospital and she's not even gonna be able to recognize their faces. But maybe there's still enough possibility for that in the future, I don't know. Either way, I had a great time talking about Dark Gathering over these weeks. It definitely has become my new personal favorite horror anime. I love the cast, as crazy and twisted as they are. The idea of twisted Pokemon is just so good, it works so well for a horror anime. And yeah, I definitely think we are going to see a season 2 sooner rather than later. Fingers crossed, we'll see where it goes. Let me know what you thought of either this last episode or maybe even the anime as a whole down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we had that full live reaction over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Asif Montgomery, Joseph Kingsley, Migs021, Madlab, James Wright, Flippy Napkins, Durdberg Jude, and Third Dynasty. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Have a great holiday, and see you next time.